Welcome to the CAIO podcast, the Chief AI Officers podcast, where we talk to leaders who are leading AI enterprise development in large enterprises. They're the ones who are making things happen. They're the ones who are addressing issues in terms of large implementations. We have this conversation with them so their peers can learn from their challenges, their opportunities. We also give them an opportunity to talk to AI talent so that we democratize AI talent because all AI talent should not end up in a few tech companies. And this is an opportunity also for them to inspire others who want to be in their position. And today we are really lucky to have Mr. Sagwal with us. He is the Chief Data Officer of NBC Bank, which is the oldest and the largest bank in Tanzania. Welcome to the CIO podcast.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. I really appreciate it.
So, given what's happening with AI today, can you just tell us what is, firstly, for our listeners, a little bit about NBC Bank and your role in there, because everybody might not be as familiar with NBC Bank.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. So NBC Bank is one of the oldest bank in Tanzania. We serve quite a number of diverse portfolio, corporate, business banking, but as well retail banking and everyday banking. So my role as Chief Data Officer is making sure that we actually realize value of data specifically to our customers in building up better products, in streamlining operation, mitigating risk, and make sure that as a bank, we are in line with the trend that is ongoing of AI, but really getting the value out of it.
While getting the value out of it. So, is AI being used right now at NBC Bank, Sagwa?
Yes, partly we are using it, partly we are at an infant stage of using it. It's a very diverse discussion, it's a very diverse topic. And mainly because the fuel to the AI is data. And our key concentration now is making sure that we have the right information and we have the correct data, because having data and having the clean data is two different things. So making sure that we have the correct underlying governance and making sure that we collect information fit for purpose and we use that information actually to drive decisions and measure how we scale up.
So, you talked about data a lot. As you know, you are in a regulated industry, highly regulated, at least in most cases. What are your steps that you do in terms of privacy and security for data? Can you, because your peers are listening, so what would be, talk about some of the things that you do to make sure the data is secure and privacy is maintained?
So my approach is always simple. As much as you have policies, you have governance, but most of us usually overlook the issue of awareness, because you might have firewalls here and there, but usually the most attacks in terms of privacy, or they usually come in a form that is usually undetected. So my take has always been making sure that the employees within the bank, they are really aware of the threats outside. So you build up their understanding, you build up their shared knowledge so that they understand, they know what is important, what is not important, how they should react in terms of, if they receive any sort of email that is awkward or anything like that, how should the process be? How should they handle it? I mean, that part of awareness is usually undermined, and I think it's one of the key issues when it comes to making sure that you're safe.
So, awareness within the employees, creating that, I think you're saying is a very important thing for data, external emails coming in, etc. So, I go, is change management a big issue when you deal with AI implementation or some of the even the data stuff, etc.? And how do you deal with that? Because things change when you start implementing AI or even some of these data tools that you're talking about.
That's a very interesting question, because in the field of data, the rate at which things are changing is very high. So you might look back 4 months ago, things which were happening. Now there are new developments. So you always have to be agile in terms of how you change your people. And agility, I believe, is one of the key issues and one of the key things when it comes to change management. You have to equip people, you have to democratize how people perceive different issues, different subjects, and making sure that you keep that momentum running. More often in our organizations, in most of the organization, there is a fire at the start, and then after some few years, the fire burns out. So I think the most important thing is to make sure that you have that dynamism, that things keep on changing and things keep on transforming, but people are not left behind. People are very key in change management, and you have to make sure that you empower and you equip them with the right skills and right sets of tools to make sure that they move with the pace that everybody's moving with.
So keep moving, but don't leave people behind. I think that's what you're saying is a very important point. The other point, Sakwal, is how important is it to get the C-level buy-in from the board or other things in terms of implementation of AI or some of the things that you're doing. This is again for your peers. How important is their involvement or the buy-in for, let's say, the CEO or the board of the organization for doing some of these things?
Yes, so data projects, as many technology projects, they are very difficult to get buy-in because usually you don't see realization of value at the beginning. So I usually do the compartments in data. For example, in data governance, which is very key and which is very vital, and that now that runs underlining brick in terms of any AI development because you don't have quality information, you don't have quality data, you won't realize any value. So in data governance, it's very difficult actually to get buy-in because usually from the business side, people would want to see things happening a bit fast. So AI might get a bit of funding, but governance, someone might think, I don't see a direct value in it. So in terms of buy-in, you have to link whatever that you do with a value. So get simple use case from AI, link it to the governance program and how that governance program might change the outcome. I think that is the way to go. People would want to see something to believe first for them to get on board.
They'll want to see before they get involved. As you said, data, it is difficult to get buy-in. Uh, One of the questions when I talk to a lot of chief AI officers is the ROI for some of these investments, the return on investments. Uh, how do you measure for, especially for AI projects, uh, tangible or intangible? Again, this is for your peers who are listening in the financial services sectors. How do you measure that?
Is a very good one, Sanjay. And the transformation that have been happening in the data space, now we have data and I, not as a supporting function. Now it's more for business function. So even how we measure, I mean, we are in the stages where most of the organizations are still trying to figure it out. How do you put KPIs on chief data officers so that because they now not become just a cost center, they have to become a revenue generation center. So the only way you can measure that is making sure that you have correct traction in terms of how data, how AI has allowed to develop the products, how many new products have you created as a result of data and AI, all that information. And for example, when you come to models, which models have been used and which one have been consumed to create most profits for the bank. And you have to link it to the entire process flow. For example, if you have created a certain model that has automated a certain lending process, how much was it taking, the cost that it was taking to do the lending, for example, and how much have you been able to save by automating that? And you can just give, and the TAT as well, the time, because time is money. So how much time have you saved as well? So you have to put all this together as metrics to actually quantify how much that one is generating for the bank.
So quantify what either you're saving or become more of a profit center than a cost center is what you're kind of saying, Sagwa. In terms of, some of the applications, a lot of times people say customer interaction with chatbots are very good applications. Has NBC ever used externally any of the AI chatbots, or are you planning? What are your thoughts on something of that?
Not yet for us, but it's something that we are looking at how we can simplify. Because looking at our, for example, peers, uh, as you have said, banking industry is highly regulated. So even introduction of such things like chatbot, you have to really go through proper channels, proper testing, making sure that that interaction is solid, because you saw there is no supervision in AI. So you have to make sure that the responses that they receive and how to go about, because they are interacting with something that is not having a human uh, mind. So it's something that we will be pursuing, because looking at it, it's very beneficial actually for most of the institutions, because it gives ability to interact with the users at any given time. Yeah.
It's like, well, do you think AI can help financial inclusivity in Tanzania using AI, making it more accessible to provide financial services to a range of people who might not have had that kind of service?
Yes. AI and data specifically, these are some of the good tools actually to develop the developing economies. In order to develop and in order to fasten the development, you need to create the right policies. And for you to create the right policies, you really need to know the dynamics of how the country is moving. You need to understand the people, and you need to have the ability to collect good information, good quality information, store them, interpret them, and making sure that you become agile in the implementation. But part of the development effort as well, you have to measure the spending vis-a-vis the income, and how are you tracking your sustainable development goals. That is very important. And the only right way to do that is through the quality of the information that you have. If you have the quality information, it means that your decision making will be very robust, your policies will be very effective, even your feedback mechanism on how you track those sustainable goals. As a country, as the economy, you will be far way ahead of others if you are rightfully informed. So we cannot skip the tangible goal of having data and AI in pushing the development agenda, especially for our developing economies.
So data development is very critical in terms of the development goals, especially for emerging countries in the region. Um, let's move to a little bit in terms of human capital. For listeners who are listening to you, what do you look for when you're looking to bring somebody on to your team? If there are people who are interested in applying, I mean, one of the big things for our podcast is to democratize talent. All talent should not end up in these big tech companies. They should be going to NBC also. So tell our listeners, what kind of people do you look for in your team?
So my main one, usually I need somebody who can solve problems. You see, that is where now we are differentiating between one individual and another. I need somebody, we can have quite a number of people who can explain the problems, and explaining the problem has never become a problem. You enter into a room and everybody will explain the problem in different ways. But I think one of the key and differentiating factor, especially in our moving economy right now, is we need people who can solve problems, people who can solution issues, people who can take the problems and say, give me 2 days, give me 3 days. I know how to fix this. So when you become that person, you become a bit more valuable. And that is what I look into people. I don't want somebody to explain to me the problem because I already know it, but I want a different perspective. How can we solve this problem? How can we solution? Because it is the human mind that can give you guidance on the steps on how you can actually solve the problems. And we are looking for problem solvers. I'm looking for problem solvers. Everybody's looking for problem solvers. Yeah.
So you heard it. He's looking for a problem solver as they go by. Um, tell us a little bit about some of the tools, whatever you can tell us that you are using from an AI standpoint. And do you have any partnerships with either companies or universities, research institutions to help grow your capabilities? Again, your peers are doing something similar. This would be helpful for them to know.
Yeah. So for now, we are using the normal packages. For example, on the analytics side, we're using the Microsoft because now that comes with quite a number of things. There's Copilot as well, which has come into light, and we also expect to start utilizing and building the processes around it as well. On the data side, I call the heavy lifting, we are using Oracle stacks for different solutions from Oracle as well. Now, the issue of collaboration is very key, and we are trying to partner with several institutions as well to create something. We have already started DAMA Tanzania. It's the Data Management Association in Tanzania specifically. We have formed that chapter so that we mobilize resources, people in the field, and making sure that we have enough collaboration, because once we have a certain institution that coordinates, then we can partner with several universities and institutions, making sure that the data agenda is moving forward with the speed.
So, a lot of collaboration with vendors and other trade associations and educational institutions that is happening per se. Sagwal, when you look at the chief data officer or the chief AI officer role, do you think it's changed quite a bit in the past few years with the generative AI coming in, etc.? And what kind of skills should somebody like that have for people who are aspiring to be you in the future?
So the role has changed dramatically in the past few years. It was more of a supporting role. So you were sitting behind, making sure that everything is running smoothly, people are getting their support or the support they require. But it has changed. Now I see chief data officer as more of not just transformation role, but it's a business role, because you really need to be ahead of everybody else. You have to think differently. You have to invent differently. You have just to have your game A. You because to run the business, for them to really get that insight, building all these AI use cases that can transform the organization, can bring about information, the right information. So at some point, you are the chief business officer. At some point, you are the chief risk officer, because that is where the diversification now comes in. You have to build, for example, AI use cases that mitigate risk. You have to build models that are working in the lending stream. You have to make sure that you optimize your cost in the operation. So it's a very diverse role, very engaging. And I think it is something to embrace. It is something that has to keep you very busy, but it is something as well that has to make you want to learn more, because now you have to know quite a number of things to perform.
Wow. So the role has changed dramatically. It's kind of become a chief transformation officer, a business role that interacts with the C-level execs. Is there an interdisciplinary aspect to it, also dealing with different aspects of the business, not just the tech part, but maybe dealing with legal, maybe dealing with, customer support and all those different aspects? Is there an interdisciplinary part to it?
Yes. So basically, I would put it as more of multidiscipline role currently, because in League of Example you have mentioned, we have now this data privacy acts in different areas. We have it in Tanzania as well. So you have to understand the legality of it. So you're not a legal, you're not a lawyer expert, but you need to understand what it entails, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. In business as well, as I've said, you really need to be ahead of the business, because their job is merely just to create products, make sure that the products are being used, products are being sold. But how do you create those products? Can you provide them with significant data enough for them to make those decisions? So you have to be ahead of them. In lending as well, how do you integrate the current processes with the AI, for example? So you have to be a chief credit officer at the same time, and you have to think ahead. So it's a multidiscipline, and it interfaces through multiple disciplines, I can say.
So it integrates with multiple discipline. You got to be chief credit officer, chief customer officer, all those other things. If you're ready to wear that hat, then please apply. Um, Tell our listeners, what do you think is the future of AI in financial services? You are in financial services, you have a software background, and now you've been in banking for such a long time. Just for our listeners in the financial sector, just a couple of things that really excite you from AI that are coming down the pike.
Data, AI, and development, these are the things that I talk passionately about. They come from my heart. And the future is very bright, actually. What has happened in the industry for the past, I can say, 100 years, you can't imagine in the next 20, 25 years. I mean, I'm usually even excited to make sure that I'm there to see those developments. We have had several challenges in the industry. For example, before we didn't have enough computing to do some few use cases. Now we have that computing that use. But again, I'm seeing the development of, for example, for computing power that will enable us. We have quantum now that will enable us to do much more and the quality of information that we have currently. But the main one, I'm seeing a bit of democratization happening. We were talking much about data democratization. Now we are talking about AI democratization. There are new developments in small language models. We used to use large language models, training large data sets to perform these tasks. But now we can create compartments, use small language models. It means now we have the ability to roll out models which are smaller. Of course, they are not very effective now, but I'm seeing with the advancement in the computing, that will be the space we'll be playing. But financial industries as well, because you've asked, as much as now is highly regulated, but I see a lot of collaboration happening. We will not continue in this path of brick and mortar. A lot of collaboration will be coming in. I mean, we have seen here in Europe, very big institutions now, they have started to partner with companies that are using Bitcoins and the like. And I see that changing the future of banking, because banking, the good thing is the change will not be initiated by us as bankers. I mean, the consumers, the environment, that is what is prompting to change. It's like during COVID times. I mean, nobody could even ascertain that people could not go to the offices and things could work, but the environment forced us to do. So change is coming, change is already here. I mean, we just need to be part of that.
Now, so change is here, change is coming, quantum computing, democratization, not just of data, but of compute power, and AI is here, according to our esteemed guests. We at the end do a lightning round of questions, one word answers from you. So just a few to keep things interesting. So you ready?
Sure.
Okay. GPUs or TPUs?
GPUs.
Okay. Open source or closed source?
Open source.
Cloud or on-prem?
Cloud.
That's pretty good. Structured or unstructured data?
Unstructured.
Okay. Multimodal or unimodal?
Multimodal.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Really, your perspective on data, on the inclusivity, and the future of AI in not just in financial services, but giving opportunity, like, including everybody in this is fantastic. And really, our listeners are really lucky to have the opportunity, and I'm lucky to have that on the podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time. And our listeners, please continue to listen, as you can listen to leaders like Samwel in terms of what is happening around the world with data and with AI. Please continue listening. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Samwel.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.